So that's how we write the letter X. And when we write the letter Y, we always use the lowercase letter y. So we do not use the capital letter Y, we use the lowercase letter y. So that is the first starting point, okay? The letter X is two C's back to back, and then the letter Y, it's lowercase. So why do we use the letters? Okay, so the letters we use represent unknown values, unknown quantities. And we call the letters variables. So the letters X and Y, they are called variables, and they are unknown values that can change over time. They can change, okay? They are variables that can change. Right, now I've mentioned the letters. I can use any letter from the alphabet, and that will represent an unknown value. Okay, but the letters X and Y are the most popular and they are the most common. And that's the reason why I mentioned X and Y at the beginning. Because if you open a maths textbook, you're going to see the letters X and Y. And that is what algebra is all about. Okay, so the letters are called variables. Why are they called variables? Because I can use any letter of the alphabet or a symbol. So when we use the word varied or variable, it means it can be changed. And letters of the alphabet can be changed. So that's the first starting point. So variables are the letters that we use in the alphabet to represent unknown values. Algebra is a part of maths. It's a branch of maths that uses these letters and symbols in place of numbers. Each letter or symbol is called, as I've just said, the variable, and it can mean a range of values. Now, when you hear people talking about algebra, and you're going to hear me speaking about it, an algebraic statement can be an expression, it can be an equation, it can be a formula, it can be an identity, it can be something. But algebra is about representing numbers but by using letters or symbols. Okay, so that's what algebra is all about. And later on, I'm going to explain how algebra is used in real life, because people always say to me, I was with some year 10s and year 11s this morning, and they were asking me, why do we need to learn algebra? And I had to explain the purpose and the benefit of using algebra. And believe it or not, they use algebra every minute of the time that they're in school, but they don't realize it. They use algebra at home, but they do not realize it. So algebra is about problem solving. It's about logical thinking. It's about making maths come alive. And I always say, if you are a builder, if you are a mechanic, you are amazing at algebra, because what you're doing is you are solving problems and you are using numbers in the real world, in real life. I was talking to a nurse this afternoon, and we were talking about algebra, and we were talking about how important maths and numbers are in the profession of nursing and the medical profession. For example, taking someone's temperature, you have to be able to read the thermometer. I know you've got all of these new things that you can just put it on and you can get the number and it flashes on the screen, but you need to be able to read and interpret numbers. If you're plotting someone's temperature on a graph, you need to be able to know how to use the graph. And plotting temperature on a graph, to me, is algebra. It's algebra because you're making sense of numbers. And this is really, really important. So we know where the word algebra has come from. We know what it means. Let's talk about how to use algebra. What's the benefit? What's the purpose of using algebra? Well, for example, if I say that we're going to write an expression, if I say that we're going to build up an expression, we can do it using the letters of the alphabet, which are the variables. then we can use the 4 operations. That is addition, subtraction, multiplication, and division. Can you see I'm building up this mental picture of algebra? Now, look at this. If I write the letter X and then I put plus 9 equals 12, that letter X represents an unknown quantity. It represents a number. We don't know what the number is at the moment, but we know it's a number. And that letter X, that unknown number, when you add 9 to it, you get a total of 12. So X plus 9 equals 12. We need to know the value of that letter X, because as I said earlier, at the moment, it is an unknown quantity, but we know it means it represents a number. So how can we work out the value of X? We can do it in a number of ways, but the way that I'm going to explain it on the radio so that it's easy to understand is like this. We belong to families, and families, we are a unit. We are a collection of people in a family. So families go together. So when I said X plus 9 equals 12, I want to put the numbers together. I want to put the number 9 and the number 12 together on one side of the equal sign, because I want them together. I want them together. So because I'm going to isolate the letter, which is the letter X, which is the variable. I'm going to isolate it. I'm going to bring it on its own. I'm going to move the number 9 onto the other side of the equal sign to put it with the number 12. So because at the moment I've got positive 9, I've got plus 9, when I move it onto the other side of the equal sign, it becomes negative 9. So now I've got X is equal to 12 subtract 9. And 12 subtract 9 is 3. So X has got a value of 3. Let's put it back into our original algebraic expression. X plus 9 equals 12. We know that X has got a value of 3. So we can now say 3 plus 9 equals 12. And that is the correct answer. So let me explain something again in algebra. The equal sign in algebra is one of the most powerful signs that you can get in algebra. Why? Because when you start moving numbers onto the other side of the equal sign, you have to use the inverse. You have to use the inverse. And so positive 9 became negative 9 because I moved it onto the other side of the equal sign to bring it together with the 12 to put them into one family. We call it collecting like terms. So the number 9 is a term, the number 12 is a term. I wanted to put them together. I wanted to collect the like terms. So we had X plus 9 equals 12. I've moved the 9 onto the other side of the equal sign. So we've now got X equals 12 subtract 9. And so X has got an answer, a value of 3. That is algebra. You are solving algebra at the moment. Okay. Now I'm doing a live stream. We stream the radio show. So some of you are watching me live and you're seeing the expression on my face because I'm making maths come alive. I'm making it real. I've just given you a real problem to solve and you've solved it. And already I'm getting messages. How easy. So someone has sent me a message. You've made it sound very easy. That is what algebra and that's what the math show. Then that's what I'm all about. Let's do another one. 8 plus X equals 15. So we've got the number 8. We've got the letter X, which is the variable. Okay, it's the variable. And before the letter X, we've got the addition sign. So we've got the number 8 plus X equals 15. I'm breaking up the question for you. We've got the number 8. You've got a positive X equals 15. Now, remember what I said. I want to group like with like. I want to collect like terms. I want to put the numbers together on one side. So I'm going to move the number 8 onto the other side of the equal sign. And remember, I've got a positive 8. When I move it onto the other side of the equal sign, it becomes negative 8. So now I've got x is equal to 15 subtract 8, and x is equal to 7. That is how easy algebra is. That is how easy algebra is. It's about rearranging letters and numbers to make sense. When you take your car to a mechanic and you say to the mechanic, look, I can hear a noise in the engine, the mechanic will open your bonnet and will take the engine apart and will rearrange the parts so that the noise stops. That is algebra. That the mechanic has solved the problem and gives you the car back and there's no more noise. This is the same with number. I gave you a problem. 8 plus an unknown number, which is the letter x, is equal to 15. We rearranged the expression and we got the value of 7. And so now we know that 8 plus 7 equals 15. We've solved a problem. This is algebra working for you. Okay, this is algebra working for you. Another one I can say to you, 6 plus x equals 15. X is an unknown number. So we're going to isolate the letter x. We're going to make it on its own because we want to put the like terms. We want to get the numbers together. At the moment now, we've got the number 6 on the left-hand side of the equal sign, and we've got the number 15 on the other side of the equal sign. We want to get the numbers together. We want to get the families together. Imagine going out with your family and you go to a restaurant. One of you sits in one part of the restaurant, someone sits in another part of the restaurant, and someone sits somewhere else. That is not going out as a family because you're all dispersed. You're all in different places. So you all sit together. I'm giving you a mental analogy of what algebra is all about so that you can picture and make sense of algebra. So you all sit together. That means I want the numbers together. So 6 plus x equals 15. I'm going to move the 6 onto the other side of the equal sign. I've now got x is equal to 15 subtract 6. That means x is equal to 9. Now, there are different ways of solving these types of questions. When you write out the question, 6 plus x equals 15, you can subtract 6 from both sides, and then you're left with x is equal to 9. You can do all of that, but remember, on the radio, I am creating a mental picture of what I am doing. So if I was in the classroom, if I had the whiteboard, I would show you what I mean by that. But I've given you an even easier way so that you can actually be walking, you can be listening, and you can be manipulating the numbers and the letters to get the correct answer. That is algebra. That is what algebra is all about, okay? And when people say to me, oh, I can't do algebra, I'm scared by algebra, this is how I teach algebra. I make it come alive. I make it purposeful. I make it real. Another comment from someone. Can I explain about when you've got numbers next to letters? Well, that's what I'm going to be moving on to shortly. So thank you for the comments and thank you for the questions. This is what the math show is all about. That was from a teacher. And that is from a teacher who wants to know about algebra so that they can go back into the classroom and teach it. And I always say to teachers, the first thing you say when you get into the classroom and you're teaching about algebra, just say to them, algebra is beautiful. Algebra is beautiful. You've got the letter A for algebra and you've got the letter B for beautiful. You've got a letter next to another letter. Algebra is beautiful. AB. That's the way that I teach it. And can you see, I'm making sense of numbers and letters. There are some rules in algebra that you need to know about. So I'm talking about algebra, but I'm also breaking it down for you. There are some rules in algebra that you need to know about. So I've mentioned about the letter X. It's two C's back to back. Now, if I write X and then I write a little 2 to the top of the letter X, of the top of the letter X to the right, so you've got the letter X, and then to the right and the top of the letter, you've got a little 2. So that is called X squared. And that means 2 lots of the same letter multiplied together. So that means X squared. And X squared in algebra means X times X. Now, remember I said to you, imagine if I write the letter X in algebra as the letter of the alphabet, that gets really confusing. You're going to have 3 letter X's in a row. Too confusing. But now that I've explained in algebra, you write the letter X as 2 C's back to back, it makes sense. So X squared means X multiplied by X. That's what X squared means. So for example, if I bring it back down to numbers and I said 10 squared, that would mean 10 times 10. And 10 times 10 is 100. So can you see that little 2 is what we call an index number. Some people say X raised to the power of 2 is the same thing as X squared. I teach it as X squared because we're dealing with digits and numbers. So X squared means X times X. So guess what X cubed means? So if I've got the letter X and I've got a little 3 above the letter X, just to the right of it, so can you see how I'm getting you to paint that mental picture? You write the letter X with 2 C's back to back and they're joining, and then you put a little 3 to the top right of the letter X. That means X cubed. And guess what that means? It means X times X times X. So let's just assume, let's just say that I want X to have a value of 10. 10 cubed would mean 10 times 10 times 10. And so 10 cubed would mean an answer of 1,000. Why is it 1,000? Because 10 times 10 is 100, and 100 times 10 is 1,000. Now, I've got my Mr. Numbervator hat on, okay? In the number 1,000, how many zeros do you have? You've got 3, haven't you? You've got 1, the comma, 0, 0, 0. Now, I've just said X cubed, and I just said it's the letter X with the little 3 above it. And that little 3 is represented by the 3 zeros. So X cubed, 10 cubed means 10 times 10 times 10, which is 1,000. And in the number 1,000, you have got 3 zeros. So if I put X to the power of 4, or as some people say, X raised to the power of 4, and I've given you X as a value of 10, that would mean 10 times 10 times 10 times 10. 10 times 10 is 100, 100 times 10 is 1,000, and 1,000 times 10 is 10,000. How many zeros are there in the number 10,000? There are 4 zeros. And X to the raised to the power of 4, X to the power of 4, that's telling me the number of zeros I should expect in my answer when I'm multiplying by 10. So can you see how maths and algebra is not that scary? I'm painting a mental visual picture of making maths and number come alive. X squared is X times X, X cubed is X times X times X, X to the power of 4 is X times X times X times X. So what does 2X mean? So X squared is different to 2X. So you've got the number 2, and next to the number 2, you've got the letter X. What does that mean? Here's the magic of maths. Whenever you've got that number, whenever you've got a number and you've got a letter next to a number, in between the number and the letter, you've got an invisible multiplication sign. So 2X means 2 lots of X. So 2X means X plus X. Not X times X, it means X plus X. 2X means X plus X. I can give X a number. I can say X has got a value of 5. So 2 times 5 would be 10 because 5 plus 5 would be 10. So X and algebra, it's about solving problems. Now, someone has asked me about the word coefficient and the word variable. Okay, if someone asks me a question, I have to be able to answer it on the radio. Remember I said to you about the number 2 and then you've got the letter X. In mathematics, that number 2 is what we call the coefficient, and the letter X is the variable. So the coefficient is like, it's like the multiplicand. It's like, what are we going to multiply or what are we going to add to with the letter X to get the answer? So in mathematics, the number is what we call the coefficient, and the variable is the letter X, Y, A to Z, or whatever you're going to be using. So already, can you see the rich language that I'm introducing, teaching, and using on the radio? This is the power of the math show, and this is what I do as Mr. Numbervator best. So x squared, x cubed, x to the power 4, 2x. What about this next one? If I write 3y squared, so we've got the number 3, and you've got the letter y, which is the lowercase in algebra, and then to the top of the letter y, to the right, you've got the little number 2, which is the index. So you've got 3y squared. What does that mean? Well, you know the answer already, because it simply means 3 times y times y. Because I've said to you, in between the number and the letter, there's an invisible multiplication sign. 3 multiplied by y multiplied by y. That is what 3y squared means. So let's just recap on some information and some knowledge about algebra. If I write the letters x, y, so x is written next to y, that means x times y. X squared means x times x. X cubed means x times x times x. And x squared y would mean x times y. Can you see how we're using numbers and letters to represent? Okay, remember in mathematics, the 4, and so if I give you a question like 2x plus 4, the numbers are called terms. They're called the variables. These are terms because they can change. So 2x plus 4, the 2 and the 4 are the variables of the coefficients, and they're the terms. The x is the variable. And I've just said to you, I've just given you an example of an algebraic statement. It's an expression. It's writing down a problem. So that is what algebra basically is all about. And in algebra, it's about this concept of equality. And when I use the word concept, I use it to mean it's how you understand something, how you make sense of something, how you assimilate and accommodate information. And those two words mean when you hear something, it's the sense that you make of it. And once you've internalized it, it becomes second nature for you. So with algebra, an algebraic equation represents, it's a balance between two expressions, and you're using the equal sign. And that is what this is all about. It's about solving problems, and the equal sign, as I've said earlier, is one of the most important, strongest symbols in algebra. When you're solving strategies, when you're solving equations and expressions, you're solving algebraic using strategies, you're isolating the variable. And what is the variable? It's the letter X, Y, A to Z, yeah? And by isolating it, you are doing the same thing on both sides. So, and that's what I said to you earlier. And that's what algebra is all about. It's about collecting like terms, isolating variables, and then rearranging the equation or the expression to solve the problem. That's what algebra is all about. And that's what we've been doing so far this evening. Wow. Now, I've always said to you that I thoroughly enjoy teaching on the radio, because people are always saying to me, how can you teach maths on the radio? And already one of those people One of those people has just sent me a message to say, wow, I didn't know it was possible. And this is an established teacher in the school, okay? And they gave me the challenge because they knew that I could do it, but they wanted to hear me teaching algebra on the radio. So as I'm teaching, they are solving. So tomorrow's lesson, when they go back into their classroom, they're going to be talking about x squared, x cubed, x to the power of 4, 2x, 3y squared. What is the index number? They're going to be talking about algebra. What does the word algebra mean? And all of these answers I've just given you so far this evening. Isn't maths beautiful? Isn't algebra beautiful? I said it earlier. This is the math show. And on the math show, we bring out the beauty of maths and number. Yes, there are going to be questions. There are going to be problems that maybe you might not be able to solve until you are shown. I was given an equation, an algebraic equation from a university professor, and he gave it to me. I looked at it. I had no idea. Well, I did have an idea, but I was not too sure about how to solve it. I looked at what I knew, but that still was not enough. And I'm giving that example because even me, with my maths knowledge, I do not know everything, but I'm open to learning. And I want to be open to learning, and I love learning. So never be scared of not knowing an answer. Never be scared of asking a question if you do not know, because we do not know everything. I am not what we call omniscient, and that means I'm not all-knowing, because I'm not. That's not the way our human brains were designed. It's about learning and making sense. We're going to go for a quick ad break, and when we come back, we're going to be solving more problems using algebra. If anyone wants to send me a request, you know what to do. The number to use is 07535 644 850, 07535 644 850. Send me a message. People are sending me messages. People are sending me hearts, which means that they're enjoying the show. People are sending me thumbs up, which go up and down on my screen. But this is the interaction that I like for the math show. I hope you're enjoying the math show. I know you're enjoying the math show. I'll see you in part 2.
Are you a breast parent with a new baby or infant up to 2 years old?
Dean, how are you?
Welcome to breastfeeding clinic, antenatal and postnatal care, day and play sessions, plus a wide range of family activities. Your local www.breadfeedingclinic.com www.uk.gov.uk/family wellbeing centres.
Okay, mate, you're all right now. You watch out. Start on Monday, right? Hiring migrant workers who aren't entitled to work in the UK is illegal. If you're caught, you could be fined £10,000 per worker and face up to 2 years in prison. We'll be catching your hand on Friday. No questions asked, I understand. It's your responsibility to check your workers' legal status. Right, sir, I'm arresting you for working illegally in this country, and I'm arresting you also for employing this gentleman illegally. Don't end up as illegal as they are. Visit ukva.homeoffice.gov.uk.
Hey Londoners, are you ready to start your next educational adventure?
Welcome to City of Westminster College, where learning is anything but ordinary.
Picture this, you stroll through our campuses in Paddington and Maida Vale, surrounded by buzzing energy and endless possibilities. With over 200 courses to choose from, there's something here for everyone. Whether you want to get your hands dirty in our motor vehicle workshop,
Capture the perfect shot in our photography studios,
perform on stage in our theatre,
or unleash your inner Einstein in our science labs.
we've got it all.
Where does this number bring us to reality?
Apply today to City of Westminster College.
Tokyo Radio.
Go to www.sovereigncomics.co.uk and get your latest issue of Mr. Numbervator's Maths comic book series today. You are now tuned in to the Mr. Numbervator show every Wednesday from 5:30 to 6:30 p.m. on Tokyo Community Radio Station. Let's get mathematical.
Yes, welcome back. So just to sort of underscore, just to underline, sovereigncomics.co.uk. You have to go to the web. You've got to get to that website, because when you go to it and you open it up, it is unbelievable. There is so much going on. It's all about learning. It's all about schools. It's all about making maths and number. It's health. It's everything included on that website. It's all there. Sovereigncomics.co.uk. You can get all the Mr. Numbervator comics there. You can get healthy eating comics. There's comics to do with homelessness. It's all there. But you have to see it for yourself. Loads of videos, loads of learning. And I must just say, it's Dean, and Dean's in the studio, because you know Dean's always in the studio, because Dean does all the social media part behind it, and he puts everything together, including the graphics in the comics, by the way. So he's the one who's put it together. So, a big clap to Dean. So it's amazing. Now, remember what I said, algebra is beautiful. Because people are saying to me, why do we need to learn algebra? Okay, if, for example, you are creating a budget because you want to maybe manage your money, that is algebra. Because you're going to say, if I put £10 away for my shopping, if I put £3 away for my food, if I put £20 away for my electricity, you're going to add those amounts together to get a total. That is algebra. You are solving a problem, because if you're spending more than you are getting, you have to change something. You have to subtract something out of that equation. That is algebra. You're working with numbers. So you can create algebra expressions to do with income and your savings. Cooking is a lovely example of using algebra, because you are measuring ingredients. You are making sense of ingredients. If you haven't got enough butter in your recipe, the cake or the whatever you're cooking, it's not going to rise. It's not going to be tasty. So you have to have that balance. And I mentioned earlier about the balance. It's about that equal sign. This is important. If you're using ratio and proportion, that's what you're doing with cooking. It's about ratio. 3 cups of flour to maybe 5 ounces of butter, or whatever the recipe is. That is ratio. How much butter do I need if I've got 6 cups of flour? This is maths. This is algebra. When you are traveling, parents, when you're with your children in the car, you can say to them, right, we're going from A to B. If it's going to take us 1 hour, what time do we need to leave the house so that we can arrive on time? That is algebra. You're solving problems using time, using number. Okay, when you go on a trip and you're buying petrol or gas or electricity or whatever you're using, I drive a petrol car, yeah. So when you're buying petrol, how much does the fuel cost? How much do you need to get you from A to B? Right, you're going to go so many miles. You know that your car can do so many miles per gallon. How many gallons of petrol do you need? Or liters or whatever it is. This is algebra. It's about logical thinking. Okay, gravity, Isaac Newton and the apple and gravity, that is a classic example of algebra. And you've heard the famous one, E equals mc squared. Say it with me, E equals mc squared. E stands for energy, M stands for mass, and C stands for the speed of light. Now, the other day, someone said to me, it was a year 11 student doing physics and maths, why does the letter C stand for the speed of light when the word speed begins with the letter S? Well, let me explain what that means. The letter C comes from the Latin, which is celerity. And celerity in Latin is to do with the speed and the fastness of something moving. So that's where you see the letter C being used instead of the letter S. E equals mc squared. And the letter C stands for the speed of light. M stands for mass, which is to do with the heaviness of something. And E stands for energy. And so you use that algebraic equation, you use that when you're solving problems. So this is the benefit, this is the magic of algebra. And my favorite one is the quadratic equation. That one, the other day, I was working with some year 8s, so they are 12, 13-year-olds, and they've just been introduced to quadratic and simultaneous equations. And they said to me, what is going on with this quadratic equation? So they showed it to me, and I'm going to read it out to you so you can listen and get this picture. And what it is x, which is the two c's back to back. X is equal to minus b plus or minus. Then you've got the square root symbol, b squared subtract 4ac divided by 2a. I know it sounds complicated, but it doesn't, because you've got values for the letter A, you've got values for the letter B, you've got values for the letter C. So all you're doing is substituting the values, the numbers for those letters, and you can solve the problem. This is what makes maths beautiful, and this is what makes algebra beautiful. So let me say it again, the quadratic formula. X, so X is a number, it's an unknown number, and that's the variable. There's no coefficient, because if there was a coefficient, it would come before the letter X. So you've just got the variable, the letter X. X is equal to minus b. Remember, b has got a value, negative b plus or minus. You've got the square root symbol, b squared subtract 4ac divided by 2a. And all you do is you substitute the letters for the values that you are given, and then you can work out an answer that is both negative and that is both positive. It's about solving problems. It's about algebra. How can I be teaching quadratic equations on the radio and it's making sense? But this is what I do. This is algebra. Another use of algebra is these types of expressions, okay? And when we write an expression, we then use the expression to solve the problem. So I'm going to tell you how to and show you how to write an expression, but then once you've written that expression, you can then use it to solve the problem. So it's 2 steps. John is n years old. I've chosen the letter n to represent an unknown number. So John is n years old. His friend Kim is 3 years younger than John. So he's got a friend called Kim, and she is 3 years younger than John. Now, if John is represented by the letter N because he's N years old. Kim is then represented by N subtract 3 because she is 3 years younger than John. So we've got N for John and we've got N subtract 3 because Kim is 3 years younger than John. And then we've got Vanessa, who is half of Kim's age. I'm going to put together the algebraic expression. John is the letter N. Kim is 3 years younger than John. So you've got N subtract 3 because remember, N is John and Kim is N subtract 3 because she's 3 years younger than John. And then I'm going to have the horizontal line and then I'm going to put the number 2 underneath because Vanessa is half of Kim's age. That's the algebraic expression. You've written it. That's how easy algebra is. And I'm making it sound easy because I want you to go away and having enjoyed understanding what algebra is all about. So we can use algebra to solve real life problems. People are saying to me, what's the use of algebra? I've given you about 7 examples of the real use of algebra. And there's so much more. There's so much more that, that we can learn about when it comes to algebra. Another word in algebra is where we can simplify algebraic expressions and equations. We can simplify. And I asked a year 6 pupil the other day, what does simplify mean? When you're simplifying a fraction, when you're simplifying some algebra, what does that mean? And this is what the young person said to me. It's easy, Mr. Numbervator. You're making the expression of the equation look smaller. You're making it look tighter. You're making it look easier to read. That is exactly what it means. That's what simplifying means. It means that you're reducing the equation or the expression to make it more easier to read, to make it more legible in terms of mathematics. So I've got a little equation here, a little expression I'm going to read out to you. If you want to write it down, I'm going to read it through to you twice. But your listening skills, I'm developing your listening skills at the same time on the math show. So you've got 3AB, so you've got the number 3, you've got the letters AB plus 7CD plus 4AB subtract 3CD. 3AB plus 7CD plus 4AB subtract 3CD. So already you've heard me use AB twice. I've used it with the 3, which is the coefficient. So I've said 3AB, and then I've said plus 4AB. That's what we're going to do. 3 plus 4 is 7. So we've got 7AB, and then we had 7CD subtract 3CD. 7 subtract 3 is 4. So we've got subtraction of 4CD. So the answer is 7AB subtract 4CD. We've made that expression simpler, easier, tighter, smaller. This is what algebra is all about. You can picture, you can mentally see that expression. 3AB plus 7CD plus 4AB minus 3CD. Let's group the families together. Let's put the AB families together. 3AB plus 4AB. 3 plus 4 is 7. You've got 7AB. 7CD, take away 3CD. 7 take away 3 is 4. So that means you've got 7AB plus 4CD. Isn't maths amazing? It's amazing because it's exciting. And I'm going to go back to that word again. It's beautiful because you are solving real problems that might sound challenging and difficult, but they are not. Someone asked me, a year 9 pupil asked me to solve this next question on the radio tonight because they were given it for some homework and they weren't too sure. So that's what I'm going to do now. So I'm going to read it out to you. 2x plus 15, 1, 5, is equal to 75. 2x plus 15 is equal to 75. Well, let's break this question up. 2x, that number 2 is the coefficient and the x is the variable. Now we've got plus 15 is equal to 75. That plus 15 belongs into the same family as 75 because they're both numbers. They are both 2-digit numbers. So I want to put the 15 with the 75. Why? Because I am collecting like terms. I am putting together things that belong together. So now I'm going to move that positive 15 onto the other side of the equal sign. And as I said earlier, when you move numbers onto the other side of the equal sign, you use the opposite, you use the inverse. So that plus 15 has now become negative 15. So we're now left with 2x is equal to 75 subtract 15. 75 subtract 15 is equal to 60. So now I've got 2x is equal to 60. I still want to know what the value is of that letter x. Remember what I said to you, you've got 2x, and in between that number 2 and the letter x, you've got an invisible multiplication sign. Because I want to isolate, I want to get the letter x on its own, I'm going to move it away from the number 2. And when I bring it onto the other side, because it was part of a multiplication, when I move onto the other side, it's going to be the opposite, which is a division. So now you've got x, now you've got x is equal to 60 divided by 2. And 60 divided by 2 is 30. So now we know that the value of x is 30. If I bring it back into that equation, 2 times 30 is 60, plus 15 is 75. I've solved the question. That is worth, I would say, 2 marks in a GCSE paper. You've just answered a GCSE paper that is worth 2 marks. 2x plus 15 is equal to 75. How did I do it? I wanted to collect like terms. Remember, 15 and 75 are terms. I'm going to bring them together into one group. I'm going to bring that 15 onto the other side of the equal sign to meet the number 75. So I'm left with 2x is equal to 75 subtract 15. 2x is equal to 60. I want to isolate the letter x. I want to get it on its own. So I'm going to move that number 2 away from the 2x. I'm going to bring it onto the other side of the equal sign. So now I've got x is equal to 60 divided by 2. 60 divided by 2 is 30. So x is equal to 30. That's the answer. Isn't that, come on, you have to agree with me. Isn't that amazing? Okay. Isn't maths amazing? And isn't algebra beautiful? Because all evening we've been solving problems to do with algebra. Just to remind you, algebra is a branch, it's a part of maths that deals with letters that represent numbers. Letters and symbols represent numbers. The most common is the letter X, but in algebra, we write the letter X like 2 C's that have gone back to back, and we always use the lowercase letter Y. X and Y, that's the most popular, but you can use any letter of the alphabet or any symbol to represent an unknown value, an unknown number. Algebra comes from the Arabic language, which means to fix, to mend, to put together the broken parts, the broken pieces. That is what you call solving a problem. And in real life, we can use algebra for budgeting, for income and savings, for cooking, measuring, travel times, the cost of fuel for a trip, logical thinking, even mobile tariffs. You can use algebra to work out the best tariff for you. Do you go with the popular tariffs that you see out there? I'm not going to mention any by name, but do you go with them? Which one gives you the best deal? That is algebra. But you don't realize you're using it. You've got you've got E equals mc squared. You've got the quadratic formula. X is equal to minus b plus or minus, square root symbol, b squared, subtract 4ac over 2a. What seemed like a difficult algebraic equation is not that difficult, because you'll be given the values for a, b, and c. You can work them all out. This is what maths is all about. I really hope that you've enjoyed today's show. Thank you to the listeners who are listening in from Ghana. Hi, Ghana. From Spain. Hi, Spain. From France. From Nigeria. From England. From around the country. You make the math show, and you make me give my best, because you send me comments on my phone, and I'm always going back to my phone to check the comments. And then Dean is always uploading new and more visual, exciting things that we're doing with Sovereign Comics. Can I just remind you that this Saturday is International Women's Day, and at the Larry Constantine Theatre, that's in Willesden, not too far from here. That's on Dudden Hill Lane in Willesden, 45 to 47 Dudden Hill Lane. You've got International Women's Day. That's Saturday, March the 8th at 2025, between the hours of 11 a.m. and 5 p.m. International Women's Day. Yes, I am going to be there, but I'm doing the door, so don't no funny jokes. I'm on the door as usual, and it's been put together by Blaze and everyone from the Let's Talk show and Village Promotions, and they are presenting International Women's Day. You've got a whole range of famous people who are coming to talk and who are coming to raise the profile of women. And remember, without women, we wouldn't be here. Okay, without women, we wouldn't be here. And so women, when it comes to maths, women make up 95% of famous mathematicians around the world. That is a big number. So I'm going to be there to help celebrate International Women's Day, Saturday, the 8th of March, 2025, between the hours of 11 and 5 p.m. It's at the Larry Constantine Centre. That's on 45 to 47 Dudden Hill Lane, Northwest 10. And make sure you are there. If you need more information, then you can call Blaze on 07956 548 781, 07956 548 781 for more information and tickets. But tickets are going really fast. Once again, that's ALGEBRA, the speed of the tickets. Have a great evening. Thank you for listening, and goodbye.